Hello, what is going on everybody? Phoenix61 here with another Skull and Bones video. So torpedoes, so this is something I feel like these torpedoes are a little underused, right? So like, you know what, I'm gonna do a torpedo build. I'm gonna play around with it, fight some different enemy types. So we'll do some, some rogues, we'll do some PvP, we'll do some Lepest fleet, right? And then we'll show more of this Lepest fight at the end too as well, and then we'll go through the build also. But yeah, I feel like they work pretty good. So I think that for bosses, like Lepest, where where they don't move a lot, it's actually kind of a good idea, right? Like there's a lot of, the problem is there's a lot of scenarios where they're tough to use or don't work great at all, right? And of course they're they're in the water, so you can't shoot anything on land, right? So yeah, so the next thing I took on was this is only level 5 captain, but in Skull and Bones fashion, all bosses just have crazy amounts of health no matter what level they are, right? So but yeah, the easy part of him is he doesn't do a lot of damage to you, right? So you got plenty of time to sort of whittle him down. And then, yeah, like, as long as you're getting good amounts of hits, like, we're doing lots of damage and we're triggering Flood, too. Which works great for damage over time, right? Like, but I do think it is a little bit of a struggle when they're not sort of broadside to you. So I feel like sometimes these bosses will, like, kind of chase you, like, right up behind you. And then it's really tough to get them, to get decent hits on them with torpedoes, right? And then if they're too close to you, I feel like the torpedoes don't do anything. And then if they're not outside of sort of that red marked line that you see on the water, the torpedoes aren't arming. So they'll still do damage, but they just don't do as much, right? So this is sort of denoted by the sparking. Like once the torpedoes start sparking, then they're doing that extra. Like they get a damage multiplier, right? So I think some of the torpedoes are a little bit different, but we're using, I think, Brahma's Legacy, so like the sort of the end game-ish, torpedo, right? That you got to buy from Rama in the East Indies. So yeah, so like, I mean, he went down pretty quick once we were, once you're actually able to start getting some hits on him, and then of course, he's he's a part of whatever this faction is out here, right? So we've got all these other faction ships that are chasing us down. Of course, they go down real quick. Of course, they're only, tier 3s. But I was interested in taking out this fleet of pestilence, like, head dude, right? So to try and get, like, the head from him. Because these guys don't go down easy, like, right? And they're, like, a smaller ship, too. So they're kind of harder to hit with torpedoes. I think that's the other thing, too. If you're going after smaller ships, you got to be a little bit more strategic with those torpedo launches, right? Like, they're definitely the harder... I would say one of the hardest weapons to use in the game, right? And of course, we're just kind of toying around with the enemies that are left here and seeing how quick they go down. But yeah, so like these guys, I mean, easy, like a couple of hits and like they're done for, right? But yeah, then a ship coming right at you, right towards you, especially when they're smaller, they're going to be tougher to hit, right? So if you don't have those good broadside shots, and then if you don't time it right, like it's just a little bit. They're harder to use. I do think that they're a little bit, I don't know, I do feel like they're underpowered compared to some things just because of, the unique scenario you have to get in order to get those hits, right? So we get some good hits on these rogues, right? So these are kind of your next step up enemies, right? Like, if you're doing a lot of the, sort of the helm type activities, right, you're always getting chased by rogues, right? So this is kind of how they stand up to the rogues, and we do pretty good with them, right? And so if if it's ship to ship, I feel like it's definitely a really great weapon. You're just lacking a little versatility, right? You can't take out structures with them, right? So they're completely useless not completely useless when you're plundering, but like you got to use either your aux weapons or have some other thing. You can't just have torpedoes. So I've done just full out torpedoes here, right? So. And then, so that was rogues. I feel like they work really great against rogues, right? You just got to get the hits, right? And this is a fleet of pestilence ship, right? So these are kind of the current, I don't know, like end game normal guys that are out. I don't know how to describe them, right? But like your typical enemy that's out there that's a little bit tougher, right? So if you're annoying the fleet of pestilence, right, you're gonna see, if you've got like, their fleet of pestilence heads in your cargo, right, you're gonna get a lot more of these guys, right? And so we're getting good hits, right? Like, and this is like a good You know, you've got to have like the right range, the right timing. You got to be able to lead that target, right? Like, so it's tough to use, and so I'm like kind of like thinking like, because of how tough it is to use, I feel like it should have more strength. But honestly, like it's fine. I think if I were to change one thing about it, I mean, obviously I would want more power, but like everyone's gonna say that about their favorite weapon regardless, right? Like, you know, I wish this did more damage, right? But yeah, I mean, we take him out pretty quick, and then once we get that flooding going, like, he's kind of screwed, right? So I do feel like there's something to be said about the damage over time. But anyway, I think that they need better range, I think, is the biggest downfall. And I'll show you why in a little bit when we try and do some PvP here in a second. But this is my build. So I went with the Brigantine. And the reason you want... So you've got, you know, pick a medium ship that has the 4 top deck weapon slots on the sides, right? So, like, if you pick, like, the Snow, which only has 3, then you're shooting 1 less torpedo than you could be, right? So I think that's kind of like step 1, and then you could pick one of the other ships that does have the you know, you could pick another ship that has 4 weapon slots on the top, right? But at least this way we're covering, you know, we're getting the maximum, we can launch the maximum amount of torpedoes possible, right? And we're using Rama's Legacy, right? So the nice thing about this, it deals an increasing amount of damage for every simultaneous hit, so we're getting multiple hits. And then it has flooding 3, right? And then arming, increased damage from torpedoes by 150% when target is beyond 100 meters. Sometimes I feel like some of these like little stats in here don't quite do as much as they say they're supposed to do, right? And then I did pair it with the Leopold when I was fighting La Peste, but I actually was, you know, mix it up a little bit. I was using the La Fleur, so the one below this here, the poison one, when I was doing like PvP or fighting non-La Peste stuff, right? And then so the Wailing Ward, same thing here, like fighting La Peste, you're going to want this armor piece, right? So this is part of the season campaign stuff, right? But, you know, depending on your scenario, mix it up. Now, to go with furniture, right? So I went munitions mixer, and I kind of have a little mixed feelings about this. But, yeah, increases duration of flooded and ablaze effects to enemy ships by 100%. So basically doubling how long they'll be flooded for, but they take a little bit less damage. I feel like that's big. Like, you know, especially PvP, I feel like nobody's using restoration kits, like, right? So, like, if you trigger a flood, like, that's gonna do damage to them, but, like, then you've got to, you know, continue to fight them until it whittles them away, right? Like, so there's risks there. And then everything torpedoes here from here on out, right? So increase elemental damage multiplier of torpedoes, so torpedoes works, right? 19%, like, that's kind of a given. And then range, I think this needs to be better. Like, I think range is the torpedo's biggest downfall in this game. And 10% doesn't give you that much more. Increase projectile speed by 5%. That's for all weapons, but so it says except Seafire and Ox weapons, so I'm assuming torpedoes work there. And then we do increase projectile speed of torpedoes by 15%, right? So the torpedo grinder, right? Faster torpedoes makes them harder for enemies to dodge, and I think that makes them a little bit easier to aim too. It takes that getting used to figuring out how to lead those targets, right? So it's like any of the other guns, right? Practice. You gotta freaking practice this, right? I do like torpedoes in this scenario. So this is some PvP that we did, and as you can see, I'm using the La Fleur to try and trigger, you know, poison status effects. But when someone's chasing you, it's kind of nice because, you know, you can kind of weave and then get both sides of your torpedoes off, you know, at the enemy that's chasing you behind you, right? So I think there's something to be said about that. And then I was like, you know, like, I feel like this guy was going to give up. I don't know, but, like, I ended up, like, I was trying to run because I'm doing a cutthroat cargo hunt, right? And you fight and run, right? Like, you fight and try and get to where you're supposed to, you know, bring the legendary map, right? But I was like, I want to see how these do, right? I want to see how torpedoes do against players, right? So, I don't know, like, sometimes I feel like it's possible I'm running into folks that are, you know, a little, like, not as experienced with the game as I am, but we're wrecking them when we're getting hits, right? So, and then we timed our We were timing the mortars pretty decent too here, I know, with this fight. But yeah, so you'll see me like slowing down and like circling back around because I'm like, I feel like I'm doing good against him, right? Like if I felt like I was like struggling, I would probably like try and run more. You know, I'd probably try and like make it to, you know, the outpost that you're supposed to get to, right? But like, yeah, as you can see, like any change in direction, or if you don't lead them enough, like they're tough to use, right? But we get a good hit on him there. He's flooding now, and you'll never see him, like he's done for with this flood, right? Like that damage over time status effect, he has no way to get rid of it if you don't have the restore kits, right? Like, so I think most people are only carrying around regular repair kits, right? So like he's just damage over time is what I think what ended up, you know, the flooding is what ended up taking him there, right? So I was like, that was pretty good, right? But like I was hoping to get into some more PvP matches with like multiples, right? Like I kept getting put into one-on-ones. This one at least somebody else joins a little bit later, but you'll see. So this guy was coming at us, right, when I was trying to intercept him with the cutthroat cargo hunt, right? And we do get some hits, but like I feel like he's a little bit more, he's got a little bit more time in the game under his belt, right? He does a little bit better dodging, or maybe he's a World of Warships player, right? He knew to turn into those torpedoes, right? But yeah, we get hits, like that does good chunky damage, right? Like that does, you know, they're pretty good. Like I feel like they're a little bit underused. But here is where their biggest downfall is, right? So I've gotta, like, I should have anticipated this. I didn't start turning around quick enough. Like he was heading this direction. Of course he's gonna keep going this direction. You know, like I was like, duh, idiot. But so here now we're in a situation where, all right, he's 540 meters ahead of us, right? And the torpedo range is 600 meters. But they're not gonna make it because he's moving forward at the same time, right? Like they're gonna run out of steam, and they run out of steam way early. So like this is where I'm like, torpedoes need like another like 100 or 200 meter range, because like they're just like, if you're making that long of a shot, that gives the other player so much time to dodge, right? Like so, but yeah, like any other weapon right now, he's 400 meters away, I'd be able to shoot him, right? Like so, like any cannons, like, you know, long guns or even just regular culverins have a 600 meter range, right? So I'm not even trying to like dodge his mortars. I'm like, I gotta get up in there to him, right? So I think having the Lafleur, like giving him that poison status effect, that does take away from your stamina, right? So like, and then when you do have the map now in the Cutthroat Cargo Hunt, you do have a little bit of a stamina, like, I don't know what to call it, but like disadvantage, right? You can see the little, like, he's got that status effect that's got the sails, right, with a little lightning bolt. So if you are in a Cutthroat Cargo Hunt, you do have like a little bit of a stamina disadvantage, so that it's supposed to make it fair so that other players can catch up to you. But in all honesty, like half the time people are, you know, if they don't have the map, they're using fast travels half the time anyway, right? So, and then I am using the armor piece that has the poison damage when you brace, right? So I think that's a good choice for PvP, right? So if you don't have that, you can buy that from the bartender at the helm, right? You need an arrow, right? But yeah, so, and then like, I don't know, torpedoes are just fun to use, I think. Like I think, you know, I think they need more range, and then I might be able to like get into it more regularly. But honestly, like for me, you guys know my preference, right? I'm so addicted to the fire bombards, it's ridiculous, right? But I had a lot of fun tooling around with torpedoes, doing PvP, right? And I normally don't like PvP, right? But I was like, all right, I'm doing it for the video to, you know, like unload my ship, put a few pieces of food in, like I got nothing to lose, right? So I'm like, we'll just see what happens, right? We'll try some things out today, right? So like we do good, right? Like we're keeping up with this guy. We're putting up a good fight. We're trying, you know, it's like all about, yeah, like we hit good there. Like those were awesome. Racked him good, and then yeah, he triggered poison. I don't know if we got to actually hit him with it. And then yeah, a lot of people are using those shotguns, right? Like, and then here somebody else shows up, right? So like, I get distracted because I'm like, oh, I gotta fight this other guy now. Totally forgot that you gotta pick up the map after you kill the player, right? So like, here I am like moving away, trying to figure out what this guy's gonna do, right? Because obviously he wants to kill me too, right? But yeah, he doesn't, like, he circles around, and then I'm like, wait, where am I supposed to go? There's no outpost. Like, it's because I didn't pick up the map, idiot. Like, right? So I think the player that I just killed was able to get back to it and pick it up because neither of us were like going for it. So now here I am, like now I'm in this situation where I gotta play catch up again, right? So yeah. So we'll use our water bottles, right? And see if we can't catch up. So yeah, so we're gonna make good time on him. We're gonna get back in the fight here. And he's got he's got a disadvantage now because he's got the the severe damage. You can see that red bar, right? And so if you don't have something specific on your ship to heal that, if you're not like the support class ship, or there's a couple of armor pieces that'll, or there is a furniture piece out there that'll heal you, but you have to be out of combat, right? So he's got that big disadvantage by having less. But like even here, like we're 300 meters away from him, and these torpedoes die out, right? Because he's moving forward, right? So I'm like this is where that would be my thing. That would be the thing that would make me try torpedoes a little bit more, as if they had like instead of 600 meter range, because I've even got the 10% more range, right? Which 600 meters, it's only giving you what, 60 more meters, like, so it's just not enough. 10% is just not enough. So I definitely think the starting range for torpedoes needs to be a good chunk longer, right? So we're able to finish off him again, and then now it's going to be a battle between me and this guy here, right? And I'm just focusing on trying to do damage to him, right? But he's using repair kits, appropriately. And then I aimed closer to the land here, thinking he would get kind of stuck on it, but he just bounced right off. So then he missed that whole volley of torpedoes. And then now we're so close that it just doesn't, like, you still get damage, but it just doesn't do like anywhere near as much, right? You need those, like, that arming, right? But yeah, like we'll chase him around here. So if you don't know, like, the cutthroat cargo hunts, once you get to the sort of outpost that you need to get to, you got to stay within this like sphere, this circle area that they highlight for, like, I don't know, it's like 30 seconds or something, right? So like this guy has the map, and he's gonna end up being in it for the appropriate amount of time to trigger that he just wins it, right? So we did trigger the flood here, so like I'm confident that like if we were able to fight him more, we would have been able to take him out, right? But that's kind of just how that's how that PvP mode works, right? You just got to get in to the area, got to get right by the outpost, and then it's like a 30-second timer-ish, something around there. That you just got to survive for, right? Which is kind of cool. Like I can get behind that mechanic, right? And then, so yeah, this is where here we'll show more of the La Peste fight, right? So I did record the whole thing, and I was kind of by myself for probably like the first, like, I don't know, 1/3 of his health, right? But I think you might be able to solo him with torpedoes because they work pretty good. Like it's we're doing really big chunks of damage when we hit him, and he's easy to hit because he goes kind of slow when he does move, right? And then he does have a lot where he's like stationary, like he's got his like spinning, like this attack, right? Like he kind of stays in the same spot a lot, right? So he's easier to hit, right? So like I feel like there's something to be said about torpedo build for bosses, for boss fights, right? Especially if they don't move around a lot, like that might be the way to go. Like I feel like we're doing pretty good, right? It's always nice to have other people fighting with us with you, right, though. It makes a huge difference. I think even just one other person at this point, like, because sometimes, like, if you're by yourself, it just feels like it's taking forever, right? And then you are on that time limit, right? You only get 8 minutes to kill him off, but yeah, well, he's stopped, right? He's stationary. Like, this is an easy kill. Like, you just gotta watch out, make sure you're, either inside or outside of his, like, his sphere of death that he launches with these poison mortars, right? But yeah, there's a typical range for those, right? You kind of figure out the pattern, and then you just kind of either stay within it or outside of it, and then dump torpedoes, right? And yeah, so we finish him off with plenty of time to spare. You can see we've got 3 minutes left in this fight, and he's not going to last much longer. Yeah, those chunks of damage, like, those are awesome. Yes. Philippe La Peste is dead. I like to call him Steve. I don't know if you guys have watched my live streams for some reason. The like poison damage is what does it for me. I'm like, that stuff's gotta smell bad, right? Thank you guys so much for watching my video all the way through. Do consider subscribing to the channel. We are doing some more Skull and Bones videos are kind of in the works and planned, right? So, and then of course we play a few other games. A lot of you guys know me from World of Warships Legends. I appreciate you all. But yeah, well, until next time, thanks again.